Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 338 for the 12th of April 2015. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. A cooler Sydney, Australia. The weather is starting to cool down. Autumn is here. It's a nice time of the year. On this week's show, we speak to Andr&aacute from the Hungarian Skeptics. Yes, Hungary. What place will we visit next in Europe, I wonder, or anywhere around the world? I do like having skeptics from around the world coming on the show. We're going to find out what's going on in Hungary with skepticism, what they get up to, what they're looking at, what their opinion is, what they like to drink, what their favourite restaurant is. No, all sorts of things coming up when we talk to the Hungarian Skeptics. And I was so glad when they made contact with me and suggested that we have an interview. Nice work. And following that, it's a week in science from the Royal Institution of Australia in Adelaide, RiAus, RiAus.org.au. And what a popular segment a week in science is. And then it's Maynard's spooky action. The other week, Maynard joined us at Skeptics in the Pub, and he speaks to Gabrielle Maston about diet and food myths and all the nonsense that goes along with what you should eat or what you shouldn't eat, or what the latest fad is, or don't eat this or don't drink that, or gluten is bad or gluten is okay and then gluten is bad again. I had some gluten the other day, I'm sure I did. That's coming up to round off the show. But before we get stuck into the interviews, very important news coming out of Australia, and it's really just exploded today, so to speak, exploded onto the media. The federal government is acting on people who basically dodge the vax, we might be able to say. Tightening up a loophole that gave parents an out when they didn't want to vaccinate their children. It's best if I'll read the press release from Scott Morrison, who is the Federal Minister for Social Services, and I'm sure this will give you a better idea. Now, we'll be covering this story, I think, in next week's episode as well, because it's only really hit the airways today, and I'm sure in the coming week there's just going to be enormous reaction to this news from the flying monkeys, the anti-vaccination crowd. So here is the release as published on the website of scottmorrison.dss.gov.au. No jab, no play, and no pay for childcare. 12th of April 2015, joint media release with Prime Minister, the Honourable Tony Abbott MP. The Commonwealth Government will end the conscientious objector exemption on children's vaccination for access to taxpayer-funded childcare benefits, the childcare rebate and the Family Tax Benefit Part A, end-of-year supplement from 1 January 2016. Parents who vaccinate their children should have confidence that they can take their children to child care without the fear that their children will be at risk at contracting a serious or potentially life-threatening illness because of the conscientious objections of others. From 1 January 2016, conscientious objection will be removed as an exemption category for childcare payments, childcare benefit and childcare rebate, and the Family Tax Benefit Part A end-of-year supplement. Immunisation requirements for the payment of FTB Part A end-of-year supplement will also be extended to include children of all ages. Currently, vaccination status is only checked at ages 1, 2, and 5 years. Existing exemptions on medical or religious grounds will continue. However, a religious objection will only be available where the person is affiliated with a religious group where the governing body has a formal registered objection approved by the government. This means that vaccine objectors will not be able to access these government payments. The new policy will tighten up the rules and reinforce the importance of immunisation and protecting public health, especially for children. Australia now has childhood vaccination rates over 90% from 1 to 5 years of age, but more needs to be done to ensure we protect our children and our community from preventable diseases. While vaccination rates in Australia had increased since childhood immunisation register was established by the Howard government in 1996, vaccine objection rates for children under the age of 7 have also increased steadily, especially under the conscientious objector category. The vast majority of FBT families meet the current immunisation requirement at relevant age points, around 97%. However, more than 39,000 children under the age of 7 are not vaccinated because their parents are vaccine objectors. This is an increase of more than 24,000 children over 10 years. The government is extremely concerned at the risk this poses to other young children and the broader community. The choice made by families not to immunise their children is not supported by the public policy or medical research, nor should such action be supported by the taxpayers in the form of childcare payments. For more information, visit www.humanservices.gov.au. So, in short, if people object to having their children vaccinated, they could end up losing government payments. As I said, we'll be covering this more next week, but in an unusual step for the Skeptic Zone, I'm going to play a short audio bite from a press conference with the Prime Minister, Tony Abbott.
In future, they will only be able to continue to receive childcare payments and the family tax benefit Part A supplement if their children are unimmunised on religious or medical grounds. Yes, people can, if they like, object to having their kids vaccinated, but if you don't have your children vaccinated other than on strictly religious or medical grounds, you won't qualify for the supplement and you won't qualify for the childcare payments.
So important news coming out of Australia. Now some other interesting news, and news that I must say just makes me smile from ear to ear, folks. A couple of weeks ago we had on the Skeptic Zone, in fact, episode 336, Pontus Bachmann from Sweden. Apologies if I didn't pronounce that one right. And we had a great chat. Now, Pontus contacted me to get a copy of the Vaccination Chronicles DVD, which I whacked in the post and posted that off to Sweden. And he had a look at that and thought that was pretty good. And then an idea struck him. He wanted to distribute it in Sweden, make lots of copies, which is great, that's what it's there for. And he suggested to me that the whole DVD could be, maybe, converted, translated into Swedish. Now, what that means, of course, is adding subtitles to the main feature movie, the documentary in Swedish, and there are lots of subtitles in different languages. But it also means all the menus and all the cover art and all the text, all translated and converted into Swedish. So when Swedish people use the DVD, they don't have to worry about English at all. It's all in Swedish, and when they run the film, the Swedish subtitles automatically appear. Wow. So I knuckled down, and with the help of Pontus sending me the correct translations and the correct words to use, I remastered the DVD, uploaded that. It took a long time because of slow uploads, but it took 24 hours to upload the disc image where he examined it and gave it a big test, pointed out one or two little errors, which we corrected, uploaded another version, and I'm pleased to say he's making lots of copies of that now. Wow, that's what I call international cooperation among the skeptical community. A really good news story there. So I say thank you, Pontus, for suggesting that idea to me, and I'm just tickled pink. And of course, the Swedish skeptics can be found at www.vof.se. And finally, yes, I know you're just dying to get into the Skeptic Zone. We're nearly there. Finally, some other good news. I'm absolutely delighted once again, oh my goodness me, I'll have to lie down for a week after this, to let you know that the Skeptic Zone podcast is in the shortlist to win an Occam Award, which is presented at the QED conference. That's sold out, by the way, and I'm not surprised. And that's from the Skeptic, of course, in the UK magazine, The Skeptic. And yes, they let me know the other day that this podcast is in the shortlist, the running to win an Occam Award, which is in the shape of a giant razor blade. Wow, that's great news. That's really great news. And you can find out more by visiting www.skeptic.org.uk. And a big shout out to all the UK skeptics, the skeptics from the Merseyside, the Manchester people. I wish I could be with you at QED. Regardless, it's such a great convention. And again, I'm not surprised it's sold out. Anyway, I'll let you all know how the Skeptic Zone ends up going in the Occam Prize. But for now, it's time for me to run downstairs, have a nice slice of sourdough toast with a little bit of cream cheese and maybe a slither of smoked salmon. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Well, I'm doing that. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. We've been going all around the world lately, well, all around Europe and parts of the world on the Skeptic Zone, interviewing all sorts of people, and I'm delighted to say that I was contacted by a representative of the Hungarian Skeptics just the other week, and I'm delighted to have on the line all the way from Hungary, András Pinter. Hello.
Hello, Richard. It's nice to be on the show.
Thank you very much, and thanks for dropping me a note saying hello. It was really nice to make contact with you. And just for our international listeners, where exactly are you in Hungary?
Well, my hometown, where I do live, it's called Székesfehérvár. It's to the southwest from the capital, about 70 kilometers. That I can use for Australian listeners, right?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And for everybody else who using miles, well, just imagine a nice day's drive or half a day's drive or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not even that, is it? No, it's a couple of hours, really.
Well, it's an hour from the capital.
I'll start again. It's probably an hour, depending on the roads. It's not very far. It's not very far. And in fact, if anybody's looking at a map of Hungary, there's Budapest, the capital there, and just sort of to the west, southwest, there's a nice big lake, and you're smack bang in the middle. That looks like a nice lake. It looks like a nice place to visit.
It is. So the next time you're coming over to Hungary, make sure you drop me a line before that, and I'm going to show you around because I'm a trained tour guide.
What an offer. What an offer. I will certainly take you up on that the next time in Hungary, which would be, by strange coincidence, the first time I'll be in Hungary would be the next time in Hungary. But okay. No, I do look forward to that. Now, let's find out more about the skeptical movement in Hungary. How long has there been a skeptical movement there?
It's been going on for quite a while. I think it's going to be this year. No, last year was the time when there was the 20th annual conference of Hungarian Skeptics.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to report that even though I'm pretty young, I'm only 33, but I've been to almost all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Well done.
So I started quite early. This activism of mine.
And why? Let me ask you why. What got you into skepticism? A lot of people have many stories of why they got interested in this sort of thing that we do. What's your background? Why are you interested?
My background is UFOs, to be honest. Yeah, so because I was so much into UFOs, I contacted the local astronomy group, the group of amateur astronomers, the Terkán Lajos Public Observatory. Mm-hmm. And I went there. I started listening very closely to what they were saying. And soon I realized that the real world in itself is much more interesting than the imagined stuff like UFOs. And so it was a gradual change in my mindset, but I'm very grateful for those people who did that to me.
I think, I can tell a similar sort of story, especially when I was much younger. UFOs fascinated me because I really thought they were coming, and I really thought there were aliens visiting the world, and I really wanted to find out more, and monsters and mysteries and ghosts and all that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So you are right. In a strange way, they do a lot of people a favor by getting them interested in this sort of thing, but then we can progress to the real science, and which we find much more satisfying, of course. So that's great. That's
exactly
a similar story heard all around the world, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And the interesting part is that even James Randi has a hand in that.
Oh.
Yeah, because there is this journal called the Nature the World of Nature. Sorry, it's a Hungarian. It's a translation from Hungarian. Természetvilága, what it's called. Mm-hmm. And back in the early 1990s, he offered a prize for those who are writing up their small thesis on paranormal activities or paranormal phenomena. And there were two young people from my hometown who made a crop circle right at the edge of my hometown.
I always wanted to do that.
Yeah, and they got huge publicity with that story, and they ended up getting the prize from James Randi.
Oh wow, that's
interesting. Then a few years later, I was the one to be awarded, that got me really into this whole thing. Finally, so there was no return for me from then.
No return. That sounds a bit mysterious. I like the sound of that. Well, 20 plus years there's been conventions and meetings held there. That's impressive. I'm glad you've got that sort of history behind you. But let's look at what you're doing in more recent times, and especially maybe with a bigger outreach than just Hungary alone. I understand that you're involved with the guerrilla skepticism.
Yes, that's right. We joined the guerrilla skepticism on Wikipedia, led by the wonderful Susan Gerbic. She's doing a terrific job in changing the world for the better.
Page by page, yes.
Page by page, exactly. Word by word, yes. Letter by letter, and that's a fantastic job they're doing there. And we decided to join them with a small group. That was a group of about 7 people. And I even met Susan at QED last year.
QED. Now, QED does come up a lot in my talks with people around the world. A lot of people consider that to be a really good convention, and I have to agree. And in fact, you've just reminded me, just before we went on air when we were chatting, that we met at QED.
Yeah, I was too shy to really jump at you with all of me being from the Hungarian Skeptic Society and stuff. I just joined the chat you were in with some other people, but it was a very nice chat, and of course I did know well who you were by that time. So. Because I've been listening to many podcasts, including yours, for years by now.
Oh well, but that's great. So, getting back to the guerrilla skepticism, and what exactly is your involvement there?
Well, I ended up leading the Hungarian group after doing the training that Susan Gerbic provides. So she's not just expecting people to jump in and do the work. She gives you a load of help. And after a while, I ended up leading the group. And we are, of course, responsible mainly for taking care of Hungarian pages. And we sometimes have to write up pages from scratch because Hungarian Wikipedia is still not there where we can find very, very much information and sometimes very useful and reliable information on the English Wikipedia, compared to what we can find in the Hungarian one. So there's a lot of work to do. So I'm not saying there's not too much work to do in the English Wikipedia. It's just we are very much behind with the Hungarian one. Of course, that's partly because of the community of editors being much smaller.
Of course, yes. But I'm pleased that we're all part of this worldwide effort, be it guerrilla skepticism or just getting out there, writing blogs, making podcasts, and what I find to be a lot of fun and a good place to make contacts and talk to people is, of course, Skeptics in the Pub. And I understand even in Hungary we can go to Skeptics in the Pub.
Yes, that's correct. We have two venues for Skeptics in the Pub. The one that's been going on for years, but it's not very frequented by outsiders, mainly from the members of the Hungarian Skeptic Society and its halo. But there is another one that I started almost a year ago. That's in my hometown, and that's Skeptics in the Pub is really aiming to reach people from outside the movement. So we would like to get people into this whole thing.
It's a wonderful thing. It really is. I was at Skeptics in the Pub just as we record this just last night. Maynard, our reporter, was there. Joe Alabaster was there, of course, and lots of good skeptics. But a lot of people I'd never met before who'd heard about Skeptics in the Pub came along to hear a talk, enjoyed a nice dinner, some drinks, and it's just a really wonderful place to make contact. So people, I don't know, I think people tend to think Skeptics in the Pub is trivial or silly or just an opportunity to have a drink. It's actually a really important part of outreach, I think.
Yes, I definitely agree, and but there are certain problems. Like my main problem in a small town in Hungary was where to organize it as a venue. Because you don't find venues too easily in a small town where there is not too much noise, so the background noise is not gonna disturb the whole thing. And on the other hand, it can be quite pub-like. And finally, I'm happy to report that it seems that we've found the right place by now.
Good. So good. Save me a drink.
If anyone is in Székesfehérvár, let's join us. Come and join us.
It sounds good to me. And I'll give you a tip. Next time that we're at a convention together and you want to say hello, just walk over to me with a drink in your other hand and it'll be okay.
I'll definitely do that if meet up again. And I would be very happy to do it.
Now, if people in Hungary especially, but people all over the world who are interested in what you're doing, I understand there's a good Facebook site to visit, and I will link to that in the show notes, folks, for this week. But what is that Facebook site?
The Facebook page is, of course, facebook.com/Skeptikus Társaság, which is not easy to spell and type in, but I believe on the show notes you will be able to reach the proper stuff.
What does that translate to in English?
It's a Hungarian Skeptic Society. Of course, it's not. Hungarian is not included in that name. What's included in the Skeptic Society? Okay. The Hungarian Skeptic Society is not. It's becoming 10-year-old next year, so it's turning 10 years old. In 2016, so it's not as old as our conventions for different reasons. But I've written an article summing up the 2 decades of skepticism in Hungary.
Yes.
for the CSICOP. I don't know how it's said.
It's the Centre for Skeptical Inquiry, the old SciCop.
The SciCop.
And I'll link to that too, because you were showing me that just before, and it's quite a good long article about the movement there.
Because it's a long movement, long existing movement.
Yeah.
We have so far 3 different conventions a year. So that's the one, the annual conference of Hungarian Skeptics. There is the Skeptics conference in Budapest, which took place last weekend actually, and I even gave a talk on skeptical activism and how to do things instead of just talking about them. And there is another one that's organized by the Hungarian Skeptic Society, and the purpose of that one, the latter one, is that we would like to reach university students in all of the universities cities across Hungary, where there is a large university, and it would attract many students, as we hope. So that's the aim, and this year there's going to be another one in Pécs. Last year it was Szeged.
Right, that's fantastic. I'm really pleased that there's so much happening in Hungary. I had no idea. It's really pleasing to know that you're doing this, and now hopefully through the Skeptic Zone a lot more people will hear about it. Why don't you give a short message to our Hungarian listeners in Hungarian? I think that would be good.
Oké. Ha valaki Magyarországról hallgat minket, sok szeretettel üdvözlöm, akkor lépjen velünk kapcsolatba a Skeptikus Társaságnál az info@skeptikus.hu címen. Nagyon sok szeretettel várjuk a jelentkezését mindenkinek.
Wow, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And let me just say, for the sake of our listeners who are curious, although it'll be in the show notes, if you go to Facebook, www.facebook.com/ then you type in SZKEPTIKUS Simple as that.
Yeah, that is correct. You won't find too many pieces in English, though, because one of the aims of this is to provide Hungarian content, and we are translating a lot of things like memes. But I think that the pictures are quite enjoyable in themselves too.
I think they are, and people can always, if they're very curious, there's always translating things on Google and what else. And before we go, what are some of the issues that you think are very important in Hungary at the moment from a skeptical point of view?
I'd like to match that topic with the topic of translations, because we've just did the Hungarian translation of your video, the Vaccination Chronicles.
Yes, how about that?
Which is a great movie. I cannot emphasize that enough, how great that work is. So I'm so grateful for you to do it. And we wanted to have a Hungarian subtitles for it in order to reach Hungarian audiences. And yeah, that's a topic we find very important. And the reason why we find the topic of vaccination important is not because we have so much of a problem with it, because we are among the countries around the world where there is the highest number of compulsory vaccination shots for children. So 11 shots are given as a mandatory shot to children from the time of birth all the way up to the age 11 or 12, I think. So we're not in that much of an emergency situation. But the problem is that the movement reached Hungary too. So the anti-vax people are trying to push legislation in the direction that they're going to free up the whole market of these, and make it available on a choice basis, or as a choice instead of a compulsory thing, which is going to be a problem in terms of healthcare, national healthcare. So we are trying to get there before them.
Well, that's great. I'm very pleased, and thank you very much for your kind words about the documentary. Just recently, the copies are being distributed in Sweden, in Israel. Of course, it's online in many different languages, so that's really, it gives me a nice feeling to know that. But I'm very pleased that you made contact with me again. I'm very pleased that you were able to give us some time, and I hope more and more people in Hungary, especially students, take the time to find out more about what you're doing and make contact and maybe meet up at the pub.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm very happy you had me on the show, and I wish you all the best for that great work of yours that you're doing, and not only you but the Australian Skeptics. You guys are leading the way. So we are watching closely what you're doing and trying to follow you.
Oh, you can come back on the show anytime. But
thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. But for now, all the way, we send our best greetings to everybody in Hungary, and thank you once again.
Thank you.
Kraskó Gábor vagyok, a Skeptikus Társaság Egyesület és a Skeptikus Szervezetek Európai Tanácsának elnöke. Mint a Skeptic Zone podcast hallgatója, bizonyára te is fontosnak tartod az áltudományokkal kapcsolatos felvilágosítást, a kritikai gondolkodást és annak népszerűsítését. Ha szeretnél részt venni ilyen tevékenységben, vedd fel velünk a kapcsolatot a www.skeptikustarsaság.hu vagy az info@skeptikus.hu címen. Továbbá ajánlom figyelmetbe Facebook oldalunkat is, amit a facebook.com/Skeptikus Társaság címen találsz, valamint várunk szeretettel rendezvényeinken. Hi, this is Gábor Raskó, President of the Hungarian Skeptic Society and Chairman of the European Council of Skeptical Organizations. As a listener of the Skeptic Zone, you probably agree that educating others about pseudoscience and critical thinking is an important task. If you are eager to take part in either of these activities, we would be happy to hear from you. Don't hesitate to contact us at www.skeptikus.hu or info@skeptikus.hu. We also recommend you visiting our Facebook page, Skeptikus Társaság, or simply come and join us at one of our events.
Welcome to a Week in Science from RiAus, bringing you the science you need to know. Faster than a speeding bullet, literally, two teams are trying to raise the land speed record to a staggering 1,000 miles per hour. Let's take a closer look at these incredible engineering projects. One project trying to achieve this mind-boggling feat is the Bloodhound SSC project from the UK. Their car is powered by a jet engine and a rocket engine, together providing 47,000 pounds of thrust, or around 135,000 horsepower. For every doubling of speed, aerodynamic drag is increased fourfold, meaning at 1,000 miles per hour, the engines will be pushing the car through 11 tonnes per square metre of air pressure. The aerodynamic forces are unlike anything seen before, and has seen extensive computational fluid dynamic studies to not only make the car efficient enough to reach the target, but keep it controllable and safe to drive. Challenging Bloodhound is Australia's Roscoe McGlashan in Aussie Invader 5R. This bullet-shaped vehicle is powered by a single rocket engine, producing around 62,000 pounds of thrust, the equivalent of around 200,000 horsepower. The rocket is powered by kerosene and liquid oxygen. One notable design element of the car is a V-shaped bottom surface to deflect shockwaves from underneath the car, providing greater stability during extremely high speeds. And now, 4 fast facts about how to design a land speed record-breaking car. One of the most important design aspects of the car is to have neither lift, making the car take off, nor downforce, pushing it down into the ground and risking breaking the suspension. One of the most important design aspects of the car is to have neither lift, making the car take off, nor downforce, pushing it into the ground and risk breaking the suspension. Braking from high speeds is also important. Bloodhound uses the car's own aerodynamic drag at very high speeds, then air brakes, then parachutes, and finally wheel brakes to stop the car. The wheels are extremely important. Made of solid aluminium alloy, they will spin at over 10,000 revolutions per minute. And in contrast to what you may think, it is actually important to keep the weight of these cars up to provide stability and to make sure the wheels maintain traction and do not slide. That's it for this week in science. For more information on these engineering quests, go to the RiAus website, riaus.org.au. Follow us on Twitter at RiAus and like us on Facebook. I'm Ben Lewis and we'll catch you next week.
From the Canberra Skeptics at www.canberraskeptics.org.au, more great free talks coming up on Monday the 13th of April. Ooh, that's tomorrow. Sex, Lies and Nectar. Evolutionary Biology is written by flowers. Speaker, Dr. Michael Whitehead. In the eyes of evolution, finding a suitable mate for reproduction is one of the most critical stages of any organism's life. The great majority of flowering plants have outsourced this essential service to animals. Good grief, they are very clever. Well, it seems they're very clever, but they're not. That's just the way things work. You can find out more at this interesting talk. Now, this will be at the Ainslie Football Club, 52 Wakefield Avenue in Ainslie in the ACT. For more information, head to that website, canberraskeptics.org.au. And coming up next month, it's our very own reporter and president of Australian Skeptics, Eran Segev. Unskepticism in Education. 15th of May 2015 at the same location, the Ainslie Football Club. 2 great talks coming up, so if you're in the Canberra ACT area, head on over to the website or just turn up on the night and enjoy those talks.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Well, I'm here with tonight's speaker at Skeptics in the Pub, and it's probably one of the most controversial areas. It's full of woo, and that's eating. I don't think sleeping or intelligence or even sex has as much woo involved as eating does. Who is our expert that's here tonight?
Gabrielle Maston.
And what have you got a degree in?
Exercise physiology and dietetics.
And what made you get a degree in that? What attracted you to that field? Why did you get that degree?
Look, I was always into sport and I was a yo-yo dieter, so I suffered a little bit from an eating disorder when I was younger, and so I thought there's got to be a better way of doing this, so I'm going to go get educated and find out how to lose weight, keep it off, and not be a mental case around food.
Well, that's what I've been asking everybody. I've been asking everybody, have they ever been on a fad diet? And it sounds like you might have been on a few.
Oh, yeah, I tried everything, mainly the bodybuilding diets because I was always in the gym when I was younger. So, you know, personal trainers telling you not to eat certain foods, not to eat apples because apples have too much sugar and that type of thing. So it didn't go very well.
Now, people always have the point on their body they're not happy with. I'm always worried about my gut or worried that I'm slouching or something like that. What was the one thing where you go, I've got to do this diet so I can fix my...
These days I'm really I like my body, you know. I think I've come a long way with body image issues and things. Yeah. So I guess but everyone wants to work on their gut, don't they? So
I guess so. Yeah. But you get some people that are obsessed with their buns or something like that, or their abs and that sort of thing.
Yeah, you know, everybody wants to have like the line, you know, the abs, lines. But, I'm all about making my lifestyle, my nutrition and exercise easily to maintain. So, to get abs, that takes a certain level of sacrifice. I'm not willing to make that sacrifice. I like chocolate.
And when people come to you, what is the difficult point where you've got to say, look, maybe they need to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist? How difficult can that be sometimes?
Oh, it's very difficult because there's a stigma around seeing a psychologist. I think some people think, you're going to judge them about being a mental case, but it's not really about that. It's about combining the disciplines to make it work better for you. So often, if someone has an eating disorder or a really poor self-esteem, bad body image that is a little bit beyond my scope of practice, that's when I refer on.
All right. Now, I have had a theory here that I've mentioned to a few experts that hasn't done too well, that pretty much every medical problem can be solved with either dexamphetamine or MDMA. And dietary-wise, why not just dose everybody up with a huge amount of Duromine and dexamphetamine, and there you go, weight loss?
Oh, gosh, because that affects the brain.
Well, there is that, yeah.
Yeah, but look, they're not long-term solutions to a life, a long-term life, I guess. So, you can do the Duromine and stuff for a certain period of time, and then you have to
spend a lot of time peeing.
That's right, and not sleeping as well, and then somehow you're going to come off it sometimes. So it's better to learn to deal with the food and your behaviours straight off the bat rather than going on to medications.
This is what you spoke about with the rebound effect, and even without medication, you get a rebound effect from any diet, can't you, sometimes?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you see it all the time. People give up chocolate, and then 3 weeks later they're binge eating, or with even with lap band surgery, people find out how to get around it.
Oh, yes, this is an interesting one, because, I see people that have had that, and most people, it doesn't help long term. Is that, am I right in saying that or not?
So they are finding now that people after about 10 years of having a lap band do actually rebound a certain percentage. So it's not the whole, population of people that have lap bands, but there's a big majority. And that's because, like I said, you learn to get around these things because they haven't actually dealt with the issues, which is the emotional eating and behaviour. So I've heard of patients liquefying chocolate bars so that they can get in more chocolate. And, of course, that has a lot of calories, and that's what it's all about.
Well, what I've done, I don't really call it a diet. I follow it as an Oprah idea. I fat-busted my house. So I don't have any chocolates, chips, ice cream, or anything like that in the house. So if I do feel emotionally attracted to something, I don't eat it. But the problem is if I'm at a party and there's a bit there, I will have it at a party. So I will do it that way. Is that any kind of way to run a railroad as far as a diet goes?
No, I think environmental cues play a big role in what we eat. So if you put food away in the cupboards so that you don't see them and you're not prompted, so the appetite starts to come on, in the issue, then you reduce your eating. So, not having food in the house is one way to do it. And look, there's no reason why you can't have birthday cake at a birthday. That's a normal part of eating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Look, there's also the bachelor diet that I do, which is the muesli diet. If you're hungry, have some low-fat muesli. Still hungry? Have some more muesli. Had enough muesli? Don't eat any more. Now, that seems to work for me. Now, dietarily, is there a problem with that? Because I do put milk in it, so I'm getting my dairy. Yeah,
well, you're missing your vegetables and your fruit intake.
Oh, that's okay. I've got the frozen food packages and everything. I just put them in the microwave, bang. So I can do that. I just thought, is muesli an okay food to have if you're having an emotional, I want to eat something, is it reasonably safe?
Yeah, so, look, it depends what brand of muesli you choose. If it's a raw muesli that doesn't have any added sugars in there, then that's a good choice. But it's all about portion control, remember? So you don't want to be binge eating on muesli just because you think it's healthy.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Now, what is the food that people tend to mistakenly think is healthy and they can eat as much as they like?
Oh, I think gluten-free. Everybody thinks that gluten-free is calorie-free when it's not.
Yeah. Well, look, I chatted to Bessie Bardot about this at one stage. She had the gluten-free diet and all that kind of thing. And I didn't do an investigation of what gluten was. I thought, okay, it must be something to do with fat and that kind of thing. And turns out that really, if you are doing that, you've got to do all this other stuff to lose weight.
Yeah, you definitely... I mean, look, weight loss is all about your calorie intake, and energy expenditure. And of course,
that's the money shot that we wanted. That's the one we want. Yeah, but people tend to forget that.
Yeah, well, because it's too simple for them. Of course, we exclude people with medical conditions. That's different. But it's basically we've got to eat less and we've got to move more. And I think the moving more as well is where people forget, because people don't like doing exercise. So sometimes it's easier to do a fad diet and starve yourself than actually going outside for a walk. So that's what we've got to change.
And when it comes to body image, you obviously deal with people all the time that have a skewed body image. How should you do it? Should you work it out on your BMI, how you feel happy about yourself, how you ask your friends? What's the way to work it out?
Yeah, look, there's always a predetermined level or a shape that we like or weight about ourselves. So you've got to ask yourself what's comfortable for starters, what's keeping your health in check. So if your blood work is all normal, then that's okay. But you have to be happy with what you look like in the mirror. Because you can be within the BMI, but if you're not happy, well then what's the point? And, the level of sacrifice. So what's the point of being in a healthy body weight range if you have to starve yourself all day? So again, someone can still be healthy and sit in the overweight category, have good blood work and stuff without overly restricting or feeling deprived.
And where do you come down on the side of women's magazines having an effect on people's body image generally and the popular culture? Everyone's in the supermarket queue and they see someone in a magazine who doesn't look like that anyway because it's been photoshopped. What do you think of that?
Yeah, look, all those images, and especially on social media too, seeing perfect bodies all the time really, warps our version of the world, which isn't helpful. So, generally for teens and stuff, I wouldn't recommend that they follow like Fitspo, for example. It doesn't help their self-esteem. And a lot of the psychology research points to the more exposure you have of these images, the worse your self-esteem actually becomes. So it's more so, if you like looking at that type of thing, maybe in just small doses, and have media literacy. So know that Photoshop exists, and it exists to trick people into buying things or into doing certain things.
And what's the thing, like with alcoholism or any sort of drug addiction, when it starts to affect your work or you're hiding things from people, that's when you have to worry. Is it the same with food? What's a cue that you should think, maybe I should talk to someone about this?
Yeah, look, if you're hiding food or you're afraid to eat in front of people or you feel ashamed for what you're doing, that's definitely a good cue to go see someone, because it means that you're not feeling so great about things, especially, and your relationship with food might not be so good that you can work on.
Well, of course, you're at a Skeptics Night here, and we see a lot of woo that goes on, all this sort of stuff. What's the one woo, the one food myth that you could get rid of? If you could get rid of it, what would it be? The one that people seem to fall for all the time and you see in your line of work?
Oh, the low carb thing. So getting rid of carbs, and the carbs makes you fat. Look, carbs are healthy. All the research has shown that carbs help reduce risk of chronic health conditions. So it's all about moderation. Plates of rice, not a good thing. If you eat a little bit of rice, then that's fine. So, yeah, moderation it comes down to.
Well, thank you for talking to us tonight. I see there's a lot of people want to talk to you here, some of them with soup spoons. We'll see what happens. Where can we see you online or engage with you?
Yeah, just visit www.gabriellemaston.com.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll eat muesli and I'll get this portion smaller.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
On Maynard.com.au. On this episode of Bunga Bunga, episode 13, we've got pooping. We've got the sound of music. We've got Maynard's Money Shot Theatre, a new one. I think you're going to enjoy that, Tim.
I certainly want to see that, I think.
Tim's historical hypothetical, Crank Mail.
Crank Mail.
MILF. That's music I'd like to forget.
Music I'd like to forget?
Music I'd like to forget.
That's good. I had an expression called PILF, which was Premier I'd like to forget.
We'll also be looking at Tinder, see if we can find ourselves a date as well a little bit later on the show, and just mucking around like you wouldn't believe.
Good morning, menswear.
On Maynard.com.au. Hey, you!
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone this week. Thank you indeed. And coming up next week, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I think we'll have some more reports revolving around that government announcement about vaccination. I'll be looking at a new TV show with Neil deGrasse Tyson, where he interviews people. That should be an interesting report. There'll be more coming up from Heidi, more from Joe Alabaster, of course, and news of a new reporter. Yeah, we have a new reporter starting on the Skeptic Zone soon. I'll leave you in suspense. Who will it be? Find out soon anyway. And I hope soon to bring you some news about TAM, the amazing meeting with James Randi coming up in Las Vegas in July. Oh, goodness me, it's hot in Las Vegas in July. Woohoo! But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.